Okay, we are on Unit 8, Lesson 11, moving right along. For today's lesson, we still are going to focus on using that formula to find the volume of a rectangular prism. But this time, we're going to have some missing side lengths. So we might find out, they might tell us what the volume is and want to know what the width of that is. Okay, so instead of having the length, the width, and the height given to us, one of those is going to be missing, but they're going to give us the volume. So we have to figure out how we can solve that using our formula to find that missing side length. So use a formula to find the volume of a rectangular prism. So just to review what we've already learned and what we're doing really well with and being successful on is that the volume of this rectangular prism over here, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 3 times 4. So we know there's 12 on that face. And how many layers are there? 3. So 12 times 3 is 36. So we know, let's do cubic units. We know that there's 36 cubic units in that rectangular prism. How did we find the area of the rectangle? So we found the area of the face first, and we took length times width. How do we find the volume? We took that number, length times width, and we multiplied it by the height. Okay, so how is finding volume different from area? You're adding in that height component, okay? So you're multiplying that height component into it. Otherwise, it's the same length times width. It's just the height that is different. Okay? So the formula for volume is length times width times height. Okay? So that's just a review of what we already know and what we've been practicing for the last couple days. But for tonight's homework, there's 8 questions on Think Central tonight. And one of them is going to ask you to enter the expression that you would use to find the volume. Okay, so enter the numbers without parentheses. I tried it last night and did it with parentheses, and it didn't like that. It's a try again. But I did the same numbers without parentheses, and it took it. So you don't need to enter parentheses tonight when you're doing formula. Okay, so just a little tip for you tonight. But some of the problems that you are going to see tonight include some missing lengths. So 8, 9, and 10 on your student activity book, this is the same thing. So notice it's asking for the expression. So the expression here would be 2 times 4 times 3, length times width times height. So that's how you'd enter it in Think Central tonight without parentheses. Okay, and then you'd find the volume, which is 8 times 3, which is 24, and it's in feet. Okay, so there's a couple like that where you're just finding the volume, keeping that practice going. But then there's also some like this at the bottom where they're going to give you the volume, but they're going to have a side that's missing. So let's think about how can we solve that? What can we use in order to figure out that missing side? We know that volume equals length times width times height. So, but this time we know that the volume equals 120 cubic meters. We know the length is 4 meters. So notice I'm just filling in the variables here. We don't know the width, so that's still a variable. And then we know the height is 5 meters. Are all our units the same? Are they all in meters? Yes, the answer is in cubic meters, but we know we don't have to do any conversions here. Okay, so we need to figure out what this W is, what the value of that W is. So we know that multiplication and division are inverse operations. So we can use division to help us solve this. I know a lot of you already were like mouthing that to me, so thank you for that. Okay, so first we want to figure out what we do know. 4 times 5 is 20. So 20 meters times something is going to equal 120 cubic meters. Okay. So we need to figure out what this something is. So this is where we can use that inverse operation of division. We can take 120, divide it by 20, and we can figure out what this leftover is. Okay. So if we take 20 and divide it, or 120 and divide it by 20, what are we going to get as an answer? I hear 6. Does everyone agree with 6? Okay, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 0 is 0, so that's going to be exactly 120, leaving us with 0 remainder. So W is going to equal 6 meters. Okay, so same thing can be used for this one, except now we don't know the length. So we'd multiply these two together, which would be 12, and then we'd take 120 and divide it by 12, which in mental math is going to give us 10. And that's in inches. Always pay attention to your units. And then this last one is just finding volume. So do we need to use division there? Nope, because we have all the sides. Okay. So this is what your Think Central is like tonight. Again, it's just practicing volume, but using that missing side to see if we can use what we know about multiplication and division to figure out what the dimension of that side is that's missing. Okay. Before I end this, I want to let you know we have to move our quiz back one day, because I was going to try to squeeze it in on Wednesday, but I'm thinking the more I'm looking at that day, there's so much going on that day, and we have our middle school field trip and everything. I didn't want to squeeze in a quiz. So I'm just going to push it back one day, so your quiz will be next Thursday on lessons 8 through 13. Okay?